Alexander was born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedonia, a kingdom most Greeks considered barbaric and irrelevant. His father, Philip II, had a different vision. Philip transformed Macedonia from a minor state into the dominant military power in Greece. He built a professional army, perfected the phalanx formation, and systematically conquered his neighbors. Alexander was born into a kingdom already mid-conquest. At 13, Philip hired the greatest philosopher alive, Aristotle, to educate his son. For 3 years, Aristotle taught Alexander medicine, philosophy, science, and rhetoric. He gave Alexander a hand-annotated copy of Homer's Iliad. Alexander carried it into every battle for the rest of his life. But the moment that defined Alexander came at age 12. Philip had purchased a massive black stallion named Bucephalus. The horse was wild, uncontrollable. Every experienced rider had failed. The horse was about to be returned. Alexander stepped forward. He had noticed the horse was terrified of its own shadow. He turned Bucephalus to face the sun. The shadow fell behind him. Then he mounted the horse. Bucephalus accepted him without resistance. Philip watched in silence. Then he turned to his son and said,
"My boy, you must find a kingdom big enough for your ambitions. Macedonia is too small for you." He was right. Then Philip was assassinated. Chapter 2. The conquest begins. In 336 BC, Philip II was stabbed to death at his own daughter's wedding. He was 46. Alexander was 20. He moved immediately. Within 2 years, he crushed every rival in Greece, destroyed the city of Thebes as a warning to any who dared rebel, and secured Macedonia's borders. Then he turned east. The Persian Empire was the largest empire in the world. 200 years of dominance. Armies that dwarfed anything Alexander could field. He crossed into Persian territory in 334 BC with 37,000 soldiers. At the Battle of Granicus, his forces defeated a Persian army 3 times their size. Alexander led the cavalry charge personally, fighting in the front line. He took a sword blow to the helmet that nearly killed him. He kept fighting. 1 year later, at the Battle of Issus, Alexander faced the Persian king himself, Darius III. The Persian army numbered over 100,000. Alexander was outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Alexander won. Darius fled the battlefield, abandoning his own family, his mother, wife, and daughters. Alexander captured them. He treated them with complete dignity, as befitted royalty. He was 22 years old, but Alexander did not pursue Darius. He turned south, toward Egypt. Chapter 3. God-King Egypt surrendered without a battle. The Egyptians had suffered under Persian rule for decades. Alexander was welcomed as a liberator. The priests declared him the son of Amun, the Egyptian god of gods. They crowned him pharaoh. Alexander was now a living deity. He founded a city on the Egyptian coast and named it after himself. Alexandria would become the greatest center of learning in the ancient world. It still bears his name today. Then he turned back east to finish what he had started. At the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC, Darius assembled the largest army the ancient world had ever seen. He prepared a flat battlefield specifically designed to neutralize Alexander's tactics. Alexander attacked straight into the center. He identified Darius personally and drove his cavalry directly toward the Persian king. Darius fled again. Months later, he was murdered by his own generals. Alexander was now king of Persia. He was 25 years old. He could have stopped. Instead, he pushed further east, through modern-day Afghanistan, into Central Asia, and finally into India. At the Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BC, Alexander faced war elephants for the first time. His horses had never seen them. He adapted his tactics overnight and won. But his army refused to go further. They had been marching for 8 years, 3,000 miles from home. They had wives and children they had not seen in a decade. Even his most loyal generals fell to their knees and begged him to stop. For the first and only time in his life, Alexander turned back. He never saw Macedonia again. Chapter 4. The Fall. Alexander returned to Babylon in 323 BC, the capital of his empire. He was 32 years old, already planning the conquest of Arabia. Then Alexander fell ill. After a banquet in June 323 BC, he developed a severe fever. Over 12 days, he grew steadily worse. He lost the ability to speak. His generals filed past his bed to say goodbye. He could only move his eyes to acknowledge them. On June 10, 323 BC, Alexander the Great died. The cause has never been confirmed. Theories include typhoid fever, poisoning by political enemies, and grief. His closest companion, Hephaestion, had died just months before. He was asked, as he lay dying, to whom he left his empire. He reportedly answered, "To the strongest." Within 50 years, his empire had been divided into warring successor kingdoms. The world he built lasted less than a generation. But the legacy of Alexander the Great endured. He spread Greek culture across 3 continents. He founded over 20 cities. He was studied by Julius Caesar, by Napoleon, by every military commander who followed. He transformed the ancient world in 13 years. No one has come close since. He was the greatest conqueror in human history. Outro Plus. CTA Alexander the Great lived a life historians have analyzed for over 2,000 years and still haven't fully explained. He was a student, a soldier, a pharaoh, and a god. He conquered the known world before most people have figured out who they are. If you want the full story of history's most extraordinary lives, subscribe. A new one arrives every week.